UgeekTV.
I realize without a shadow of a doubt, Godzilla is one of the most versatile characters in all of fiction and film. Easily. He can be a hero in one movie, he can be a villain in another movie, he can be a tweener or kind of an anti hero like he was in Godzilla X Kong earlier this year, and just be wanting to beat everybody ass and doesn't even know why he's doing it. But without a shadow of a doubt, in my heart, Godzilla is one of the most versatile characters of all time. And Godzilla Minus One does something that I didn't expect. Fully refresh the big guy. I'm Jarius, the Unapologetic Geek. This is my unapologetic review of Godzilla Minus One. By now, you know how I like to do things. I get my score and the verdict on the front end, and on the back end, pause, we talk about spoilers for the film and really get into the nitty gritty. So here's my review. See this film. I mean, do it as quickly as possible. See it in its original language in Japanese, or see the actually pretty well done dub on Netflix. Whatever you do, experience this film. Hopefully, if you got like a surround sound system or a sound bar, crank it all the way up. You really get a sense of the weight from seeing a big ass monster destroy your homeland. It's haunting. Godzilla Minus One shows that you can have a big kaiju movie where everything is getting fucked up left and right, and it actually has a genuinely moving story for the humans involved in it. I cannot recommend this movie nearly enough, and I'm ready to get to my verdict. Godzilla Minus One gets an unapologetically superb rating from me. It's a 5 out of 5. Stop what you're doing if you haven't seen it already. Get on Netflix, turn this shit on, and watch it and enjoy. It is truly, truly a special film. So let's get into those spoilers and really some praise for the film as a whole. Godzilla Minus One follows Koichi, who is a kamikaze pilot who decides not to carry out his mission. He kind of backs out of the war effort during World War II, and he goes to an island where these mechanics work on kamikaze planes, as well as like add more fuel to them and things like that. He decides to hide out there, and he hears about Godzilla through those people that are staying there, and it's like a local legend in the village on the island that they're on. And he hears that it's this big ass lizard that's beating people ass, and he just like, okay, cool, we'll just take a nap. Well, Godzilla shows up, and he's not as big as you're normally used to. Like, this Godzilla clearly is still growing, still young, and honestly, this was a great kind of horror look at Godzilla. I believe making Godzilla smaller actually made him a little bit scarier, because it looks like the threat of Godzilla was more personal. So Koichi and the other pilots just decide to get some rest, and they're woken up in the middle of the night by Godzilla, and he's doing what the legend has indicated that he's been doing, and he proceeds to start kicking ass. And again, that personable look at Godzilla. Godzilla being so close and so in your face without looking like he's just looking for the next mountain or building to destroy. It's something about that that's kind of haunting. And I was thoroughly impressed with kind of downsizing Godzilla to give him a more horrific feel. So one of the mechanics asked Koichi to take down Godzilla with a machine gun that's attached to the jet that he's flying, that at Godzilla size looks like it could take him down. Koichi chickens out, and Godzilla essentially decimates everybody but Koichi and the lead mechanic. And Koichi again has kind of backed out of a battle, and he tucks tail and run. So we catch up to him later. He's essentially been dishonorably discharged People know that he's a kamikaze pilot, and him returning means that he's brought some dishonor to the war effort. He really doesn't care, but he kind of does at the same time. He just couldn't bring himself to fight a war that he feels was unnecessary. So Koichi meets Noriko, who is on the run, and hands him a baby when they first meet, and eventually they catch up with each other, and you find out that this child is not hers, but this child was orphaned, and they stick around and essentially become a family, and it's really sweet. And Koichi has to make money because he's a family man now. And so he gets a job with this kind of lively crew where they go out and they use a wooden boat to blow up like leftover U.S. mines. And it's interesting because I never thought about that as a job. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense because you don't want any metal boats coming through. And those mines have magnets on them and blowing up any ships unnecessarily. So that was his job. It's very dangerous, and he does this job for quite some time, and he makes a living for he and his family. And at this time, it's been about almost a year or so. Maybe, it may have been like right at a year that he had last seen Godzilla, maybe 2 years. And he finds out that now the United States battleships and people are reporting seeing Godzilla as well as the Japanese soldiers that are out there. They're saying that he's freaking huge now. And once Koichi hears of this, he's like, look, last time I saw him, he wasn't all that big. But if he's big enough to take down these warships, then it's not much we can do. We need to get the fuck up out of here. And he sees what appears to be like little fish that kind of signal that Godzilla is coming. I took it that it looks like skin particles from Godzilla from like nuclear testings when it was like hitting his skin or whatever. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I missed it. My apologies if I did. But he sees those fish and he's like, okay, he's near because he saw it at the island. And Godzilla makes a grand re-entry into the film. This time he's the size that we're used to, and he is a fucking menace. The boat scene in this film when Godzilla reemerges is terrifying because again they lean into Godzilla just kind of being in your face, and I don't remember a lot of films doing it in the past, but he's as big as Godzilla is expected to be. But he's so close to this boat and he's just making a beeline for it. And this is a wooden boat. They're trying to get away. It's a horrifying scene. And they're using the gun that they shoot the mines to try and take him out. And then they try and dump a couple mines in the water to shoot him with. Some that they picked up along the way to shoot the mines and kind of hurt them. And they're having no effect. And then he actually bites one of the mines. And Koichi shoots it and it blows up his face. And then he instantly regenerates. And he's pissed off. And another bigger ship comes. And it's like a gunship. And they try and take Godzilla on. And Godzilla attacks the ship. A little bit of a battle ensues. And he dives under the ship. And he shoots his atomic breath. And that's the first instance of the atomic breath that you see. And it really wasn't anything I hadn't seen before. Like, I thought it was impressive because I always think the atomic breath looks good, especially here lately. But it was just something like, yeah, okay, that's typical atomic fare, bruh. So then some new reports come in of Godzilla making his way to like the mainland on one of the islands. And he arrives in historically amazing fashion. He starts out by throwing a fucking train at another train. And he's just running through the city, just running amok, kicking ass, doing Godzilla stuff. But it doesn't feel like the fun Godzilla destruction that we've come to kind of enjoy from the old films to the most recent MonsterVerse stuff. No, this feels scary. It feels like a big deal. It feels like something that should be alarming. And it puts you in the place of, man, what the fuck would I do if this was really happening? And the destruction just keeps building and building and building. And then finally, there's like this hush, and the score kind of lightens up. And you see Godzilla's spikes on his back, or his fins. They glow, but they protrude, and then they kind of come back down. Like they come out and they come back down. And you see this just continuing to happen. And of course, the glow is going up toward his head. Once it makes it to his head, he starts to inhale. And you see like the atomic breath charging up. And he rears back and he opens his mouth and he fires it off. This is the greatest display of Godzilla's atomic breath I've ever seen. They give you that long beam that he shoots out. But then it stops and it comes out like rapidly. And then it stops and he closes his mouth. And it makes impact. And then it blows up and there's a mushroom cloud. It is a fucking atomic bomb. It is true atomic breath. And it's breathtaking. And I don't mean that as like a pun or anything like that. It is breathtaking. When I saw that, the sound that it made, the sound design in that moment, and the visual of Godzilla just blowing up everything. And then it's like a double, it's like the shit did double damage. It did damage to everything that was in front of Godzilla. And then the shockwaves came back behind Godzilla. And it started to decimate the city that was behind him. And it was hurting, I mean, the shockwave was harming the people. And Noriko pushes Kyoshi out of the way into the alley, and it looks like the shockwave killed her. Like, it honestly blows her out of the movie. That's the best way to describe it. Like, you never see her body in anything. It blows her out of the movie. And the most impressive part is at the end. Kyoshi looks at Godzilla, and Godzilla is staring off into this mushroom cloud as it's getting bigger and over him. And he does the iconic Godzilla roar, and he leaves. It was devastating. It was haunting, and it was honestly the best, I think for me, the best scene in this film. But that's not all this film has in the tank. So Kyoshi and the crew from the boat where, you know, they blow up the mines and everything, they get together and you find out like the smartest minds on the island are coming up with a plan to defeat Godzilla, and it essentially involves dragging Godzilla down like to the deepest depths of the ocean. And he has like this coolant or nitrogen or something like that on him, and it's supposed to basically freeze him instantly. And then he's going to come back up and they're basically going to break Godzilla apart. At least that's what I understood from the plan. And Kyoshi, being a pilot, he goes in, he gets that same lead mechanic that kind of went off on him for not killing Godzilla in the first place. And he gets in to work on a plane for him. And they kind of patch things up, and Kyoshi is supposed to lead Godzilla where they want him to be, because the next Godzilla attack has kind of been predicted. And so we build up to them building everything that they need. It's really a cool plan, and involves a ton of battleships and things like that. And Kyoshi starts to lead Godzilla out into the ocean where they need him. And then they attack Godzilla. They actually kind of bait Godzilla into using his atomic breath. It's understood that if he fires that shit off where a bunch of the ships are, he's going to devastate everything, and that's going to destroy the plane. So they send an empty ship after him, and it works. He shoots, and they realize he has to recharge. And so they get the devices around him to essentially drown him. That works, and then they bring him back up, and he is freezing, and it's so intense the way everything just plays out. And Godzilla is still a threat, like he's barely moving, but he's mostly frozen, but you know that he's fucking pissed off. And it's so epic, man. The whole thing, the way everything just comes together. And then Godzilla, they run out of time. And Godzilla's beam starts to recharge. And he's getting ready to blow everybody up who ever crossed him. And the music just stops. And there's just this deafening silence. And Kiyoshi comes out of nowhere with that plane and flies right into Godzilla's mouth. The plane blows up. It essentially blows Godzilla's head off, and he starts to collapse. Like his body starts to break apart. And it was wonderful. And the icing on the cake of this whole thing is his girlfriend is alive. She survived. And it's such a feel-good movie and a feel-good moment. And I like Godzilla, period. I really like him more as a hero than I do a villain. But when he's a villain, he really works. And seeing them take out Godzilla, like, this is one of those times, like, I'm on the human side on this one. Beat his ass. So after everything is said and done, Kiyoshi goes to Noriko. She's in the hospital. She's recovering. You get this happy ending, and then you see, like, this black spot appear on her neck. And if that wasn't enough, we go back into the water, and there's one, like, little bit of Godzilla's flesh left there, and it starts to regenerate. And I'm like, what the fuck? I did not expect a setup for a sequel with this, but I'm all for it, man. Give me Godzilla -2 or +1 or whatever it is you want to call it. I am locked in. I'm all in on this universe. I'm all in on this Godzilla, and I can't wait. Also, shout out to them for using that old school Godzilla, using that music. That music always gets my blood pumping. Thank you. Just thank you. And this was truly made by people who love and appreciate the character that is Godzilla. It was released in 2023, which I believe was Godzilla's 70th anniversary. That was a hell of a way to bring Godzilla in, man. Like, just bravo. Just it's beautiful. It's a masterpiece of a movie. And if you're here, you probably already seen it. If somehow you haven't, go and look at it. If you've already seen it, like I just said, go and look at it again. I plan on watching it again. It's why I love movies, that film. And I just hate I didn't see it in the theaters. I really do. It is a true testament to what you can do. And what I really love about it is they made a straightforward movie where there was a message in it about how haunting World War II was for Japan. There's a message in there, but the message didn't overplay the characters. It's like the story got you to the message, not the message conducting the story in this case. And people who have seen like some things where they kind of clearly are pushing whatever it is that they want to push, and it comes to the detriment of the story itself. You know what I mean when I say that. Like, they put the story first. And the special effects, considering what I've heard the budget was for this film, special effects are incredible. And if I'm not mistaken, this won an Oscar for special effects, which kudos to them as well for that, for making the most out of the resources that they had. Like, I've seen some bigger budget films that just look like piss, and this doesn't fall into that category. Godzilla -1 is truly a special, remarkable film. So, Godzilla -1, have you seen it? Let me know what you thought in the comments. Continue to like, continue to share, continue to subscribe. I really appreciate you. And until next time, I'm Jarius, the Unapologetic Geek, and I am out.